Well, what do you think, Jerry? Should we get this thing started? So, for the first time ever, I'm going to share the authentic story of nearly 30 years of manufacturing. From homelessness to traveling to over 80 countries, exploring the world, winning Fear Factor competitions, having one of my best friends killed, being in hip-hop, and everything in between. And I start sitting down because I got to be honest. I woke up at 3:30 this morning with anxiety because I think it takes a lot of courage to be authentically who we are. I think it takes courage to allow people to understand that they're not the only ones going through struggles, that they're not the only ones who suffer. And I'm hoping today, through manufacturing and through my authenticity and transparency, that we can connect with a few folks out there. And I got one of my good friends, Jerry, in the audience, so I might speak to him a little bit today. I think it's important that we do this through manufacturing because we are at the World Series, the Super Bowl of manufacturing here at IMTS, thanks to SME. But there's more to this story than just manufacturing. I want everyone to know that you have a place here and that you have a place in the world, even if it's not manufacturing. I think it's important to know that. So, who am I? For anyone who's watching, for anyone who's listening right now, who am I and why does that matter? And to some people, it won't matter, and that's okay. To me, to some of my friends, it matters. And I hope my journey will help inspire a few folks. So, my name is Tony Gunn. I am currently the Director of Global Operations at MTDCNC. What does that actually mean? Well, it means, according to some of my colleagues, Fernanda, I'm a workaholic, and I work far too much. But I would say that I take breaks from time to time. I mean, I have been to over 80 countries. I am surfing in the world and even in hurricanes and enjoying my life, right? But the Director of Global Operations at MTDCNC is a responsibility to the manufacturing community to bring them the most authentic and unbiased news when it comes to manufacturing in the entire world. It means that we're going to travel the world for you. It means we're going to travel to factories. We're going to travel to trade shows. We're going to spend time in these facilities collecting information and bring it to you. But I didn't start here, and I think it's fair to understand that it started in a very, very difficult situation. It started in a household that had a lot of struggle, and we're going to get there in just a minute. But what I want to talk to you about is why manufacturing? Why does manufacturing matter to you? What can manufacturing do for you? And what does manufacturing do for the world, which we're going to dive into a little bit more later as well. But why manufacturing? Well, to my understanding, I actually have a daughter that's 24 years old, so maybe I can relate a little bit. But to my understanding, there are a lot of youth out there that want to make a difference. They want to change the world. They've been inspired to change the world. They see videos out there of people changing the world, right? In manufacturing, you can do that. You can be an entrepreneur. You can create. You can build a life. You can darn near do anything you want through manufacturing. And we definitely have that stereotype that we're trying to break right now, which is, oh, manufacturing is dull and it's dirty and it's dangerous. And let's be fair. They exist. They do exist, but we're cleaning it up. We're making it more fun. We're making it exciting. We have automation all over the place and 3D printing. And it really is turning the impossible into I'm possible and making every day better. And whether you want to be eco-friendly and green, or whether you want to, do medical and help people walk again, or I've even seen some great videos of people who are, blind that can now see. And I know that seems strange, but check it out. Or can't hear that can now hear. People with heart stents that didn't think they would survive and now they do. The world of manufacturing can change a reality for people. It can change the way you think about what is actually capable. And if you care about your family, you care about your friends, you can make this a part of your lifestyle. So that's why I say manufacturing. Now, We're going to go a little bit on my journey today. We're going to dive into some of the chaos that I've been a part of my entire life. I only have 60 minutes to talk, but we're going to talk about that a little bit today. We're going to dive into, as you see here, join me on my journey around the world, right? So we're going to go around the world. We're going to visit these countries, the manufacturing leaders, but also some of the greatest places to surf and hike and have fun and enjoy life. We're going to talk about all of that. And it took me 30 plus years to do this, yeah? And in fact, if you look at that video right now, I'm going to have my colleagues, since we're live streaming to over 500,000 people around the planet right now, we're hiking. I'm not taking care of fully of orphanages. I got some great friends out there doing that, but we're supporting them as well. And this is all a part of the journey. So let's get into it, yeah? Let's get into the heartache. Let's get into the pain. Let's get into the suffering. Jerry recently read my book, so he may know some of this, but let's get into some of that. When I was growing up, my childhood was hard. A lot of abuse, a lot of poverty. I never got anything. My clothes came from secondhand stores or my grandparents. I was actually in what the police would call a gang. And I had a large group of friends, and we did a lot of bad things. But we were trouble. And that trouble created a lot of difficult situations. I dropped out of high school my junior year. Junior year, I dropped out of high school. Now, I ended up going back because I wanted to graduate with my friends and graduate on time, and I did. And I ended up graduating with a 1.26 GPA. I didn't even know that was possible, by the way. It's a D minus when I was, 1.26, a D minus, but somehow I graduated high school. But it came from this angst, this anger. I was so mad as a kid, all the time, just mad. I wanted to hurt people, and I played a ton of soccer, right? And I'm not going to skip that slide just yet, but I played a ton of soccer, and I thought that soccer was my way out. And if I'm being real honest with myself and honest with everyone, all the million people that are watching right now live, which makes me a little bit nervous, but I'm happy to be here. I was right at that professional level. I was right there. I mean, practice squad for DC United. I was sixth leading scorer in the nation in college. I was dominating the pitch. I mean, crushing it. I was well on my way to being a true professional soccer player, which is what my dad always told me I could do, even with a bad 1.26 GPA. But you know what happened next? I got kicked out of 3 colleges. I went to school, I started chasing girls, I was great at soccer, and I got kicked out of 3 colleges back to back to back. And you know what happened after that? And I don't like to say this out loud, but I'm also very proud at the same time. I was a very young father. At 20 years old, I got this young lady pregnant, and at 21, I was a father. Now, at this time, I was making a few $1,000s and had an apartment doing soccer. It wasn't enough to take care of a family. And my dream of playing professional soccer, I felt at that time, was crushed. I was demoralized. I was sad. I was suffering. But I've always been taught to pick my head up. I've always been resilient. I've always wanted more from my life through all of the struggle, all of the poverty, all of the suffering. I've always wanted more. So that's where manufacturing comes into play. But it wasn't on purpose. I promise you that. It was not on purpose. How did I get into manufacturing? Well, I had a child coming, and I needed to find health insurance that didn't have any pre-existing conditions. So where did that take me? That took me into manufacturing on accident, into a facility, and everyone thinks, they see a person at this high tier of what they've done in their life without realizing all the work that it takes to get there. They only see the good, right? They don't see the hours and the days and all that stuff. You know what I did at my first job in manufacturing? Jerry might know this. The firm might know this. Some of my friends might know this. I mopped floors and ran a hydraulic press, and it was boring. It was push down 2 pieces on either side. A piece of plexiglass comes down and punches a hole in material. I was bored out of my mind, so I had to figure out how to have fun because I had to take care of my family. So I started racing myself. Can I punch more holes than I did the last hour? Can I punch more holes than I did the day before? As much overtime as I could get. I was mopping floors. I was whatever I could do. Saturdays, Sundays, making money, getting the insurance, that kind of thing. I was grateful for the hard work. I was grateful for the people around me. I bumped into this young man at the age of 65 named Bill Sullivan. Bill Sullivan was a 40-plus year machinist. And he pulled me away from this hydraulic press and taught me how to program CNC machines. Now, I have to say this company, which is a super cool company called Hoover & Strong, this company did precious metals. And the department I was in was anniversary bands. So we made wedding rings and anniversary bands, and Discovery Channel came through, and we actually melted down gold from a sunken ship off the coast of North Carolina and turned it into commemorative coins for that ship. So it was a really cool spot. It was a refining plant. I actually had, at this point in time, started programming machines, CNC machines, about 40 of these, old Omniturns, you know, just these little easy ones, but line-by-line programming. I don't even know if anybody knows how to do line-by-line programming, except for the gray hairs and myself out here, right? The tape and the floppy drives, that's what we did. We edited from the screen. We fixed it on the screen. We crashed machines from the screen for sure. A lot of days I need to change my underwear. That is for sure. But I learned and I grew, machine after machine. Ended up with 7 patents that went around the world to the jewelry industry. Was part of the company improvement committee. Started doing I Think software, which is Six Sigma, lean manufacturing, but an automated version of it. So in theory, on paper, you say you can do this. You can speed things up, clean things up, right? Well, the I Think software allowed you to actually see if that was reality or not. But I got bored. I got bored, guys. At this time, I was still mopping, trying to make as much money as I could. And in fact, at this time, I figured out how to save over $100,000 in understanding how to machine platinum. I was actually considered in the top 5% in the world of understanding how to machine platinum and precious metals. Top 5%. And I was bored. Can you believe that? So with this boredom, I left manufacturing. And you know what I did? I went into road construction. I went into road construction because the pay was 3 times more. And what did I do there? I worked a night shift. On night shift, I was the traffic foreman of the night crew. And one of the scariest things I've ever had to do in my life was on this night crew. And I'm going to tell you a story real quick about what that was. As a traffic foreman, you have to lay out cones at every single stop, yeah? And we'll go back to that slide in just a minute. You had to lay out cones at every single highway in order to tell the traffic where to go. That's the easy part. Putting it down is easy. You know what's hard? Picking it up. And you know how you have to pick up the cones? In reverse with highway traffic going 70 miles an hour right past you, 1 foot from them, as you have 3 people on the back of your truck scooping cones and throwing them in the back, scooping cones and throwing them in the back. Well, the first time I ever did that going in reverse, I was about half a mile an hour. I mean, scared. I thought I was going to kill everybody on that truck. Everyone. So scared. But by the end of about a month, I had that pedal to the floor. We could pick up cones in about 5 minutes for miles, just lacing it. But one of the scariest things I ever had to do. Now I want to talk about some of the continued struggles that happened. Just because I got into manufacturing, things became positive. I had insurance. I had this young child. That didn't mean that struggle disappeared. In fact, for most of us, struggle will continue throughout our entire life. It's just we learn how to deal with it better. So what happened during this time? Well, my best friend was killed, shot right between the eyes. Best friend in the whole wide world. The person who shot him said his finger slipped. Wasn't even on purpose, they said. So I was miserable, sad. See if this slide will work. How do you fix a broken heart when you can't change what has happened? Well, for me, before I got kicked out of college, I wrote poetry. Wrote poetry for the newspaper in college. Yeah, just a little side thing along with the soccer and all that other stuff. I was an absolute moron, but apparently gifted in other areas. Just can't sit and repeat. So I wrote poetry. A gentleman came up to me at the manufacturing facility because I ended up going back to that same place because road construction wasn't for me. So back to manufacturing. And he said, hey, man, I know you're suffering. I'm a music producer. Would you like to turn those words into songs? And I said, hell yeah. That sounds incredible. I do want to do that. So, and we'll come back to the other part of the story in just a minute. So for 10 years, and by default, it had to be hip-hop because I can't sing, and I wrote poetry. Anyone who's ever heard me sing knows I can't sing, but I'd love to sing. I just can't. So by default, it was hip-hop. So within 10 years, I wrote about 200 songs, released 5 albums. It was always just a hobby, but we made about $50,000. Ended up opening up for DMX and Wu-Tang Clan. And one of the scariest things I ever had to do, I know I've already said that like 3 times now, right? But ever had to do was step on a stage like this as an opening act for someone and prove within 3 seconds that I deserve not to be booed off stage. That was scary too. In fact, I physically got pushed on stage that day because I refused to do it. It was when the iPhones first came out, the very first iPhone. Dropped my phone, smashed the glass. There goes $1,000. That was fun. But I ended up doing that. And if you notice, if anyone ever finds my music, because I've hidden it and stopped doing it since 2010, if anyone ever finds my music, you'll realize that in the beginning I was angry and mad and sad and all of these emotions, and they went into the music. And it was therapy for me. It helped me get fixed. It helped me release pain. And I'm actually a little bit embarrassed by some of the things I wrote about, if I'm being honest, because it was just mean. Just mean. But then it got better. Then it got fun. Then it got enjoyable. Then it started healing. So 10 years took me through that, right? Well, what happens when you start getting happy again? You start exploring. You start having fun. Why is Fear Factor on here? Now, I know the generation that's out here right now walking around these students, I'm not sure if they know what Fear Factor is. But I was on it. The older generation knows what Fear Factor is. I was on Fear Factor. And what is Fear Factor? Well, it's a TV show that makes you do crazy things for money. Nothing illegal, of course, but crazy things. And we were doing an audition, which was for the whole East Coast of the U.S. And I ended up winning it. What did I have to do in order to win this thing? Well, my first test was swim in a swamp with a bunch of snakes and be one of the fastest 2 times. Well, I did that because I didn't tell you, but I was a lifeguard for 7 years. And I actually won that pretty easily. So no snakes, no bites, that's fine, easy to do. What was my second thing? My second thing was I had to eat raw pig brains. Delicious raw pig brains. We had 4 people left of the 6. 2 of them barfed and 2 of us made it through, but I ate mine in about 30 seconds. Super easy. We had 2 minutes to do it. Gross, but it was all right. I'll do anything to win. You know what I mean? The third thing we had to do was bob for plum in a bucket of eel. So we had all these eels swimming around, right? I got bit a couple of times. We had 30 seconds to do it. My ear was bleeding. The eel were biting me, but I ended up getting 6 plums. And so the second runner-up got 1 plum. So Fear Factor, kind of fun, right? Little story. What did that win me? Well, it won me a trip to see Lenny Kravitz, hang out in a hot tub, sip some tea, be front row in the concert, meet Dave Matthews Band. But again, I'm an ignorant kid, right? I'm young 20s at this time, a child. So I never turn in the winning and I never go on the real show. That's the story about Fear Factor. We talked about resilience at the beginning of this journey. And don't worry, we're going to get back to manufacturing. That's the next step. But we talked about resilience. During my life, I've had to fight through a few things, and family things as well. My nephew died at 4 years old. I was homeless for a little while because my brother burnt down our house. Burnt it to the ground. We lost everything. You want to figure out what matters in your life is when you don't have anything, and you're sleeping in a car, or you're sleeping on the ground, when you have nothing. Why did my brother burn it down? We found out after he was locked up for a year that he was schizophrenic. So he spent a year in jail with schizophrenia, nobody knowing, nobody to help him, before he got out and we put him in a mental institution to try and figure out what was going on. But the house was gone. I was homeless. I had nowhere to be, sleeping on the streets. Still, I was going into work. Every day, still going into work. But you know what happens when you're stressed, when you're fighting life? When you're overworked and underpaid? There's a reason why this is here. Viral pneumonia. Viral pneumonia suffocated and killed me when I was 22 years old. 22 years old, I was in the hospital in Richmond, Virginia, could not breathe, lungs were completely full, ended up flatlining before they hooked up oxygen to me to bring me back to life. And after they brought me back to life, they were pretty sure I was going to die. They brought in 3 specialists. The first 2 could not do a thing. They walked out hopeless. The third one came in. Jerry, have you ever played air hockey? He has. He has played air hockey. For anyone who's played air hockey, you know that piece that you hit the puck with? I'm sure you guys in the audience, 500,000 people online right now watching. I'm sure you guys have played before. So imagine that piece, but made of rubber. I'm laying in the hospital. The third specialist comes in and says, the only way you're going to survive this is if we let the nurse take this rubber, more or less mallet, and beat the crap out of you in your lungs. Just hit you as hard as we can, and you have to cough it up, because if you don't, this fluid is so aggressive that it's going to connect again and suffocate and kill you. The nurse beat the crap out of me. I mean, beat me till I was bruised. Nothing came out. I laid in the hospital that night and said, is there more that I'm supposed to give back to this life? Is this life for me worth living? Are there people that I might be able to inspire one day? My young daughter at this time, 1, 2, maybe 3 years old, somewhere around that age. About, 1 or 2. She mattered to me. But sometimes we don't get the choice of life or death, right? I felt like I might have a choice, but I didn't know. But I knew that I wanted to be there for her. I knew that I wanted to be there for what was going to happen next. So I spent the entire night beating myself up. Yeah. I beat myself up until my arm was tired. I would flip sides. Then I beat my other side until my arm was tired. And I ended up filling up a cup of fluid. And the doctor came in the next morning expecting me to be dead and said, you might actually live now. You might live. That is resilience. That is strength. That is courage. That is a test. It is a test of who we really think we are and how much this world may or may not matter, but it is a test. A week and a half later, I got out of the hospital, went back to work, of course, and about a year later, I realized I got to about the ceiling that I could get at the precious metals company. I was programming everything, running everything. I was doing everything I could. Family owned and operated company. I couldn't own the company, so I couldn't get any higher. I decided I want to learn more. So I went into the next stage, going back to manufacturing, right? So I became the head of R&D at a place called Super Radiator Coils. I ran a department, a lot of fun. Also, again, quite boring. Taught myself how to run a couple of Haas machines, punched a lot of holes. This was more like your standard steels and brass and aluminums and that kind of thing. So ran a few machines, ran the R&D. That only lasted a couple years because I really got as far as I could get again. So what did I do next? Well, new challenges. A place called Old River Cabinets. Well, this place went out of business because the owner embezzled money. But before we get to the owner embezzling money and the place going out of business, I was running a 4-acre woodworking custom cabinetry machine shop. Everything from painting to routers and everything in between, running it all. What was really cool about this opportunity is I ran the shop floor. I was used to shop floors. I was used to working hard. But now there was a place to grow. So what happened with this growth? Well, I moved into the CAD CAM side of things. I ended up being able to take the designs from the designers and pop it into the software so all the machines knew what parts to cut out across this 4-acre facility outside of Richmond, Virginia. After that, I started to design kitchens. I became somehow an interior designer, somehow. And then on top of that, I got moved to Washington, D.C., and ran about 30 or 40 interior designers. And I'm not an interior. Remember, I got kicked out of college 3 times. I barely graduated high school with a D- in 1.26 GPA. How am I in charge of degreed interior designers and able to do this? It's because of hard work. It's because of dedication. It's because believing in yourself is so very freaking important. These things matter. However, per my mind, I get bored. Again, I'm in charge of 30, 40 people, 3 areas, Washington, D.C., designing kitchens for all the politicians that are in Washington, D.C. I mean, we're talking $250,000 kitchens. I'm now making, by the way, upwards of $150,000 plus bonuses. $150,000 plus bonuses, running this cabinetry, coming from these other areas, getting kicked out of schools, and somehow here. I was stressed out. I wasn't happy. And if anyone knows anything about me, as we continue to learn, I'm a happy dude. I'm a positive dude. I'm a hard-working guy. And if I am stressed out, money does not matter to me. Lifestyle for me has always been the most important. So, At this point, we're at about 2012, and consider the start of this story is about 2016, 17. We've gone through, 6 years in the precious metals company doing a little road construction. We've now gone into the R&D at Super Radiator. We've spent a few years at Old River Cabinet. So it's about 2011 right now. $150,000 plus, but I'm stressed out. You know what I do? I quit. I quit my job. My wife is 6 months pregnant. Yep, I got married in 2010. My wife is 6 months pregnant. And no job, no guaranteed place to live, no nothing. We pack up all of our stuff and we drive from D.C. to Florida. No guarantees for anything. I got 3 interviews when I arrived. All 3 I was hired by. The third one was a company called Air Turbine Tools, and I hope Simon Shane sees this. Air Turbine Tools. I got hired for $40,000, so I've now gone from $150 plus to $40,000 because money doesn't matter to me, and I know it matters. I know it matters. We have to take care of each other. But if I am sick and I am unhappy and I am unhealthy, then I am not creative, I am not productive, and I am not enjoying life. And I've always noticed the biggest transitions in my life come from being courageous, come from being brave enough to step out of that comfort zone and just walk into the uncomfortable. And that's what I did. We threw everything in the storage, drove south. We're now in Florida. I got hired by a company called Air Turbine Tools. And you know what Air Turbine Tools did for me after they hired me at $40,000? They took me around the world. I've been around the world. It took me around the world. We're going to get into some of this as I click this button here. Maybe it'll go forward. Yep, there's Air Turbine. Air Turbine Tools took me around the world. I started as a machinist, started on the R&D side of things, and then grew to be the vice president of operations. They took me into over 40 countries around the world, working with the head engineers at some of the coolest places on the planet. And I'm sure the people out here have heard of NASA and SpaceX and Apple and Google and Tesla and Nike and all of these folks that I've spent time in. And I'm going to share some of these stories with you because my job was to help people do things faster and a micro diameter and just reduce cycle times and make money. But there's always that niche situation that people struggle at in that small diameter. They just can't go fast enough. So it gave me the opportunity. First story I'm going to share is I went into Nike, and I got to see how they were making all the shoes. Now, I did sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, so I can't tell you anything more than that. But I got to go into Nike, and then I got 50% off everything in the company store, and that was kind of cool. Walked into Apple. First time I walked into Apple, if you notice a photo that was on here earlier, I had long hippie hair. I was a surfer, still surfing hurricanes, by the way. Love surfing. I'm going to Bali in a couple of weeks to do some surfing. But I was a surfer, long hippie hair. Went into Apple, these secret locations over in Silicon Valley. Walked in, helped them do some things I can't tell you about. Came back with cut hair, walked in again. They said, get out of here right now. They had no idea who I was. That's a secret location of Apple. Get out of here right now. Another story I want to tell you is if you remember Oculus before Facebook bought them, they were based in Seattle on the 4th floor of a building, and I got to help them make the Oculus virtual reality, right? But the 4th floor, what the heck are you doing on the 4th floor, man? Why are you moving DMG Moris and Hermele machines up to the 4th floor with cranes to make this stuff? Also, what I thought was really cool about that West Coast work ethic is there were ping pong tables, there were games to play, they used to take breaks, get creative. It was really fun to be in that environment. Got to spend time in SpaceX. Got to be right beside Elon Musk. The rockets that you see on TV are even bigger in real life. They are massive, incredible. I mean, some of the things you can't even fathom being there. I've worked alongside them. Samsung, I've helped make a lot of these TVs in here, all the TVs, your phones. I walked into a facility in Vietnam that had 15,000 robo-drills that looked like a hall of mirrors. And we were helping them make all of the phones that you guys are on that take for granted right now. Don't care how it's being made. Yeah, we help make it. We make that. I've been into all of these facilities and had such a good time. And I wish I had my comments going right now because I imagine some people want to know more about these areas that I've been to. All over Korea, all over Japan, heck of a story, vice president. So let's talk about some adventures. And how am I doing on time, by the way? Sometimes I talk fast, sometimes I talk slow. I got half an hour still. We might open up for some Q&A at the end, I'm not sure. But if you look at some of these photos, we got spiders on my face. I'm holding a little animal that actually helps make coffee through his dung. Swimming with whale sharks. I mean, let's talk about adventures, right? Because I've already told you I am not happy if it becomes monotonous, if it becomes stressful. So we must balance our lives with happiness and joy. So I want to tell you a few stories of happiness and joy. So I got to go riding through the Philippines on my scooter, little meet. Yeah, it broke down a few times along the way. 4 hours through the jungle, chasing waterfalls, that kind of thing. And I got to swim with whale sharks. Now, I don't know if you guys know what a whale shark is, but its mouth is really, really big. And I was free diving. I broke the rules and just went free diving. Took off my mask and just free diving with the shark. And that mouth was, it could have swallowed me. Now, fortunately, whale sharks spit people out and things, but it could have swallowed me. But I enjoy swimming with sharks. I enjoy surfing in hurricanes. I was recently in Cancun. 2 hurricanes hit. I took out my surfboard. I currently live in South Florida. When a hurricane comes, I take out my surfboard. I do have comments. Oh, awesome. Well, I hope I have it queued up. I'm not sure I do. But I'm a big person that loves adventure. And I guess I'm not a big person, but I'm a person that loves big adventure. And another thing I've done is I was backpacking through Bali, and I was climbing an active volcano. Yeah. It was actually erupting, and the purpose of me being there was to see how close I could get without melting. That was kind of fun as well. So the adventures continue to go on. I'm going to tell another story that I thought was kind of fun. When I was in India, a lot of people go to India for vacation, not necessarily work, but India continues to grow in manufacturing. And I got to go to India, and I arrived in the Himalayas. When I landed in the Himalayas, as soon as you arrive, they give you an oxygen tank, mandatory, that you must buy because you're so high in altitude. And then I found a not too old of a gentleman, not too young of a gentleman, because I needed a good driver to take me 4 hours into a magic lake in the Himalayas. 4 hours. And this trail there was no guardrails. You could look over the edge. There were broken vehicles down at the bottom. They'd all exploded, fallen off. The military comes by. I mean, it really is the middle of nowhere. So I needed a driver who had done this before. So I ended up getting to this lake, but along the journey, I was at the second highest coffee shop in the entire world. I was at the Global Research Center for Altitude, and I got out of the car and I was trying to walk. About 10 feet, I just collapsed. The altitude was too much. We're at like 17,000 feet up in the Himalayas, just trying to do the best we could without having any practice whatsoever. So I make it to this lake. It's in the middle of July, and it's 1 degree Fahrenheit. 1 degree Fahrenheit in the middle of July. That's how high up we are. We see snow. We can't breathe. It's raining, but it's one of the most beautiful experiences I have ever been a part of. And it's because it stretches what we think to be our limitations. It stretches. All of this journey is about taking what's comfortable and leaving that comfort zone so that everything becomes more comfortable. The more often you leave the comfort zone, the longer and bigger that comfort zone stretches so that life becomes more comfortable and enjoyable the entire time. So, as we continue to go through this journey, I'm going to do a little dance move because I have a spider on my face. Now, I'm scared of spiders, honestly. I don't like spiders too much, especially not the ones that can kill you. But I was in Mexico, and we're going to get to Mexico in just a minute, and I thought I'd get a spider on my face. So COVID hits. Anyone remember that thing, COVID? Anyone? No, just we breezed through that, right? So COVID hits. If you remember any of the stories that I've just been talking about 30 seconds ago, so hopefully you do, any of the stories that I've just been telling, I am traveling a ton. We're talking 250 to 300 days a year for a decade with Air Turbine, talking about everything we just talked about, right? All these engineers. But because I can't travel, I don't feel like I deserve now the salary that I'm being paid. I don't like to take money if I'm not earning it. And I didn't feel like I was earning it at that point, yeah? So I ended up working for a second company, great friends of mine, Fifth Axis Work Holding, if you guys know that, to go along with Air Turbine, and took a 50% wage from both of them, because I couldn't travel. So I was building distributorships. Actually, in about an 8-month period, I helped Fifth Axis get to about 18 countries in an 8-month period for their international distributorships. And Air Turbine, I was just continuing to support the customers that we had created for the last decade. But if you may remember COVID, a lot of people were looking at each other as numbers. We were stressed out. We didn't know when it was going to be over. I didn't know my value. They didn't know my value. They didn't know how much money they were going to make. There was a lot of stress. And again, I don't do stress. I mean, I have it in my life, don't get me wrong, but I try to balance it the best I can. I don't really do stress. I don't do stress, worry, fear, anxiety. I don't do these things because I don't feel like they bring benefit to my life. And I know saying it is easier than actually doing it. It's easy to say I don't want anxiety, but I still get it. We all still get it. You know, it doesn't just disappear. We just have to sit with it, figure out where it comes from, understand the vibration, and then figure out how to make it pass, and then in doing so, we can do better and better with each time something like that hits. But I was feeling this just like everyone else. So what did I do? Another huge shift in my life, just as crazy as some of the other ones. I quit all my jobs, threw everything into storage, had no place to live, and went backpacking through Mexico. That makes sense, right? Sure, we're making great money, traveling the world, great job, great career, working 2 companies. Let's give it all up and backpack through Mexico. Well, as with everything else in my life, being hardworking, being positive, hopefully caring, hopefully I'm being empathetic and sympathetic to all the folks out there. I believe that good energy comes back to us. So I'm backpacking through Mexico, and that's when the current position and role that I am in, Director of Global Operations at MTDCNC, the world's most popular news channel for manufacturing, unbiased news channel, gave me a call. They're based in the UK. They've been around since 2007. And they said, we know about your history. We know you've been a machinist. We know you've ran shops. We know you've helped build distributorships. We know you've given keynotes around the world. We know that you've worked with the head engineers at Apple, Google, Tesla, SpaceX, Facebook. You name it, I've been there. Would you mind helping us take this news media channel outside of the UK and make it the true channel that we want to be, the true recognized channel of bringing manufacturing to the world and making it cool and fun and enjoyable so people appreciate it? I looked at them, I said, I'm in Mexico at this time. I looked at them and said, you mean I get to help everyone? I mean, I was helping a lot of people before. I get to help everyone in manufacturing? Yeah, let's fly to England. Let's have an interview. Let's figure out what we can do. So I leave Mexico. I go to England. I have my interview. And sure enough, it was thought to be, in theory, a dream job, and it has become a dream job. I'm truly grateful for the folks out there, the MTD partnership. Shout out to Joe and Paul, the creators of this company, because in my opinion, we are doing something that no one else has done in manufacturing. We are bringing the reality of manufacturing, not just the stereotypes, but the reality of manufacturing to the forefront of people in manufacturing, but also outside of manufacturing. It's why we're here today talking with everyone, inspiring everyone. I was talking with my friend Greg Jones and Tony Neary, and they were having a conversation about how much diversity we're seeing now. And I would like to give that shout out to a few of my friends, my Megan Zimba and my Drew Crows out there who are going above and beyond to make sure that people are seen and heard. When we see representation of ourselves on stage, we believe that we can do it too. And I'm just becoming an old white guy, which is traditionally what this industry's been. So I love the people out there that I can't be. I mean, I wish I could be everything to all people, but I can't be. And I respect and love these people so much. But it is important for all of us to come together to realize the dream of manufacturing, because there was a time 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago when this industry was the most well-respected, most desired industry in the entire planet. What are you doing? I'm a doctor. What are you doing? I'm a dentist. What are you doing? I'm a machinist. Hell yeah. That is the most respected thing on the planet. Then we offshored everything. But we're bringing it back. We are bringing it back. So MTD helps talk about that. Now, MTD, that's my team. That's my family. The crew here holding the cameras right now, my Cesars, my Allens, my Alexis, my Zara, my Fur. This is my family. But in being a part of a family and having somewhat of a following, some people consider me the MC of manufacturing. I did get put on 3 magazines. I have written 2 books, and I have an incredibly famous podcast, which Jerry has joined me on. Great, thank you for that, by the way. So it does come with its own rewards on a personal level. But ultimately, me being of service to an industry that I admire and care about is the most important part of why we get on stage. Did you know of all the fears on the planet, all the fears, if you were to take a poll, the number one fear is public speaking? Did you know that? I don't like public speaking. But I do this for everyone here. I do this for the 500,000 people online right now that want to know more. I don't want to be here doing this. At the same time, I do, because it's a duty and an honor and a pleasure. So in doing this, it has allowed the opportunity to be on the cover of 3 magazines, to write 2 books, to have a podcast, and to be the director of global engineering, or director of MTDCNC, the world's most popular channel. Now, what does that mean? How do we help? Now, I know when I was talking with Greg Jones, he wants me to focus a lot on manufacturing, and I think it's important that everyone understands the journey of me dropping out of high school, getting kicked out of 3 colleges, best friend being killed, being homeless, having a house fire, losing all my crap, having all this strength and courage to move on, running machine shops, all that stuff. But it is about manufacturing, which is why we're here at IMTS. So how do we wrap this all up? Well, what does MTDCNC do? We go to your facilities. We travel the entire world. We have local channels in England, Europe, US, Latin America, Middle East, India, and we're working on Asia right now. It means that everyone gets represented on their own terms. We don't make you say certain things. We come to you and say, share with us what you're doing. We want to bring the forefront, the coolness, and I know I've said this already, but it's true, the forefront, the coolness of manufacturing to everyone, to your TV screens. We're currently working on a show right now called Shop Rescue. Shop Rescue is incredible. In fact, I'll be on the main stage with Dave and Mike from Evita Growth Systems in just a little while talking about Shop Rescue. And what is Shop Rescue? How many people know Bar Rescue or Restaurant Impossible? A lot of folks, I'm sure. Yeah, a lot of folks online as well. So we took a spin on that and said, Shop Rescue. So we go into shops that are not doing well, and we say, how can we help you? And they guarantee that within 3 years, they will double your profits. That goes for anyone who's succeeding as well, looking to sell their company or just grow. Within 3 years, they will look to fix it. So Shop Rescue currently is actually being pitched to Netflix, my friends. Being pitched to Netflix. So MTD is bringing the mainstream of manufacturing to the mainstream of people. That's what we do. We have so many projects that we're working on right now because everyone here is important. And did you know, and I never like to teach through fear. Never, ever, ever. I like to teach through courage, hope, love, passion, all of these things, never through fear. But did you know that right now it is a national security threat, the manufacturing sector? Did you know that if there was trouble, we would be in trouble? And we need more people. Men, women, diversity, all cultures, all ethics, everyone, we want you, and that's important. And that's what we do here. When you're looking at these videos here, you see genuine human beings sharing their story and honored to do so. I might be passionate, but I'm not the only one who's passionate. There are so many passionate people. I just have a big mouth. That's the problem, is I have a big mouth, so I am representing all of the introverts in manufacturing that make all the cool shit out there, all of it. I represent those people because they're afraid to be here, just like I am, but I'm doing it for them, and I'm doing it for everyone out there. So again, I don't teach from fear, but the reality is we need more people. We're currently at about a 2 million person skills gap. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Jerry probably knows more than I do, but I believe if nothing changes, by 2030, we'll be at about 4 to 5 million in the skills gap. I think Roger here knows that as well. NTMA president, just behind me, by the way. Great dude, been on my podcast a few times. And in fact, I'll be at his Engage event before too much longer, speaking there as well. A little less about my story, a little more about manufacturing, but we're going to have a chat there. But these numbers are real. These numbers are true. So it's important that we talk about it here. It's important that we make friends and those friends talk about it. I got so many people that I just want to encourage to talk about manufacturing, and not like, manufacturing, but manufacture it. You know what I mean? Like, get into it. It's so much fun. How can manufacturing help you? We're bringing this all around full circle again. I think it's important to go full circle because we started at the very beginning of this about what it can bring to you, right? And I do have some comments, and I'm going to go over those in just a minute. I've waited quite a while. But what can manufacturing bring to you? Again, the youth of these days, really want to help people. I've seen it. I've seen it in my daughter. I've seen it in my older 24-year-old and my younger 12-year-old. Did you know that you can create anything you want in manufacturing? Anything? If your imagination is there, you can make it. You want to help your grandfather, your grandmother with some pieces in their hips or their heart or their lungs, you can help them. Are you a fashion designer and you want to make your own shoes? Make the molds. You can make a mold. If you want to help a cousin out there who can't walk, you can help them walk again. If you want to see what space is like in reality, you could be an astronaut, sure, but you could also make the stuff that the astronaut goes up in, the satellites that connect all of your Wi-Fi, the things we take advantage of, like being able to not look at paper maps anymore, like Roger and I, like Jerry and I, looking at paper maps in order to get around, turning it upside down and going the wrong damn way for half an hour before we figure out where we're going. We got Google Maps now. That all comes from this. This all comes from manufacturing. How can manufacturing help you? Well, it's taken me from a immature, aggressive, angry, ignorant young man to a director of global operations that has seen the world, written 2 books, been on the front of 3 magazines, seen hiking, waterfalls, things you might not ever imagine, and things I cannot share today because they're that much fun. But pull me aside, we can talk about that kind of stuff. What can it do for you? It can help you see the world. It can help you see the world, maybe not even through travel, but from a different perspective. It can help you take care of your family. It can help you take care of your community. It can help you take care of your state. It can help you take care of your nation. This is what manufacturing does. And don't get me wrong, we want people to go to universities still, but did you know that there is a better current ROI on going into trade schools for the next career longevity than it is to go into a university based on how much funds go into a university? And again, we still want our doctors, we still kind of want our lawyers, we still want our people out there, right? But trades has a better ROI, and we're removing a lot of that dull, dirty, dangerous, and dainty. This is what automation is for. That's what people get excited about, right? We had 3D printing. You can print whatever your heart dreams of. I was just in a company in India that has one of every single 3D printing machine out there, and they are doing some really, really cool stuff over there. So that's what it can bring to you. I'm going to make this click. I should have clicked that earlier. It would have actually moved, huh? Why is manufacturing cool? I think I've already gone over that, but I'm going to let this video run a little bit for people who don't get to see the inside of shops a lot, because manufacturing is everything, right? It can be manual machines where, you know, we first start and we feel the vibration and the purr and the hum of material when we cut it correctly at the right speeds. But it can also be from management styles. It can be loading and unloading pallets. It doesn't matter. We have a place for you. We want you. We desire it. You can be sales. Sales makes great money. Go into sales. I mean, you can be an engineer, you can be an accountant, you can be a personality front deck person, and actually right now, you could be an influencer. Who knew manufacturing had influencers? Or, as I like to say, thought leaders. We have a lot of thought leaders out there, and I've already given shout-outs to a bunch of them. But manufacturing, to me, is cool because it makes everything around us. Our cars, our phones, our computers, even people that look like us these days, but we're still calling them robots and AI. But we're making all of it, and that's why manufacturing is cool to me. Now, I'm not sure what time it is. Maybe we have some Q&A. I've done quite well. Zara told me to finish 10 minutes ahead of time, so I'm going to go to these comments first. Glad to be able to watch it and hear it. Jason Murray, I appreciate you as well. Carlos, IMTS 2024, fantastic. Shout out to Paul Seven. Well done, Paul. Good to see you. Kim, great talk. I'm headed out to local networking group, inspired leaders, and the entire reason I go to this group is the real rawness of being authentic. It is hard to live in being authentic in our lives and in our business. It means being really accountable. As another message came in, so I had to scroll again. Being really accountable and honest with yourself and others about the human condition. Thanks for being an example of this in MFG and in life. Can't wait to see you on the 24th in Austin, Texas. Absolutely correct. Any questions from anyone here before I close this thing out and go on to my next filmings? I'll be on the main stage today at 12:30 to 1. And what other time? What time? 3 to 3:30. So we got 2 things going on the main stage today. Any questions right now before we hit stop on the record button, stop on the live stream? awesome because my voice is starting to disappear anyway. It's been a week of talking. Zero drinking, though, for everyone out there. I have not had a drink this week. I've actually been in bed by about 8 p.m., asleep by 9:30. I'm very well behaved for the first time. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate your time. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. If you have shared time with me today, the one thing I always say, manufacturing and time. Time is the one thing we cannot manufacture more of. So if you have shared it with us today, we truly appreciate it. Thank you all, and we'll see you again soon.